Before we go into those other matches I was talking about earlier, there was a tag team match I wanted to talk about. It's not on the card as of yet, but it was briefly announced on the studio things on Impact last night as the team of the North, the Impact Tag Team Champions, defend against Rob Van Dam and Rhino, and the team of Willie Mack and Rich Swann. This may be subject to change. They may have accidentally did it impromptu. I don't know, because it's not on this current card list that I'm seeing. But in the weeks to come, we can confirm that. If that was to happen, though, it's interesting to me to see Rob Van Dam and Rhino as a team. Of course, they've been teaming on the Impact television over the past few weeks, from what I've seen. It's weird to me seeing them as a team, though, because with going back at ECW, I don't remember them actually being a team. I don't remember them actually being rivals. But in fairness, they would know each other very well with those matches, especially with WWE, the Indies, as well as obviously ECW. But we'll go over that match if it does happen. Two matches that we do know that will happen, however. First off, Ken Shamrock. I never thought I would be saying this again, but Ken Shamrock in a wrestling match against Moose. What a match that will be, in my opinion. Oh my god. Probably the first match I can remember of Ken Shamrock in maybe over almost 2 decades. He's probably been in the ring before then, because obviously you're just not going to go and say, fuck it, I'm going to wrestle. But when you're Ken Shamrock, you can very well do that. However, the last time I remember Ken Shamrock in a match was probably back when TNA did weekly pay-per-views under the NWA TNA banner. And I guess, looking it up, I think if you count one of the Bloodsport events, it's probably been almost over a decade. And maybe I'm not thinking of it because, you think Ken Shamrock, you think the UFC. And you think MMA. And obviously, he did have a term in the then WWF, try saying that 5 times fast, for several years before going back to Ultimate Fighting at that time. And there are times where I am speechless and don't know what to say. This is one of those times, because I never thought in my wildest dreams that Ken Shamrock would be in a match again in wrestling. All I have to say is Shamrock will win, because it's fucking Ken Shamrock. I can't bet against the man. He is clearly the emotional favorite, and he clearly is the favorite in many people's minds and hearts. Let's just hope it's not like the Tito fight from last year, because that was fucking horrible. Unless I'm confusing Chuck Liddell and fucking Ken Shamrock, which I should not do that for my own safety and personal well-being. But nonetheless, he hasn't done well in Bellator as well, over the past few months. It's sad, kind of, to see what Ken used to be. But if it's anything what Ken used to be in his prime, Shamrock will win. But he has to be in his fucking 50s or 60s now, so he's not a spring chicken. But it's still Ken Shamrock, so I cannot bet against Ken Shamrock because that would be a sucker bet if there was ever a sucker bet, in my opinion. And finally, the Impact World Championship, as Sami Callihan faces the world champion, the fucking machine, Brian Cage. Now, Cage has been injured over the past few months, so it'll be interesting to see if this match actually does happen, but he has been recuperating over the past few weeks and months. I think he was injured probably at one of the other shows. I don't remember off the top of my head, but a weakened machine is a good thing for Callihan for sure. Again, this is one of TNA's, I keep saying TNA, but one of Impact's biggest shows, Impact TNA, whatever you want to call it, one of their biggest shows of the year. They're basically their WrestleMania. Unless you count Slammiversary as that, which could pretty much well be the same thing. But either way, you're going to have a big change, a big title change, and I feel what better way to go into the Impact showings. Of course, even though Impact is on XS TV, they're just showing the pay-per-views right now. Their real television shows begin on the 29th of October. So this show basically is after that. I think, give it a week or take. Yeah, it would be a week after. So what better way to go into those television when the television actually comes back on a major network like Access TV, or at least in some people's mind a major network, because it's grown ever since the fucking HD fight days. Good lord. I mean, it's grown exponentially since then. But if you were to pick a world champion, I would pick Sami Callihan, because he's grown into the role. He has battled for this. He has earned this. And in my opinion, the machine goes down at Bound for Glory. Well, that being said, Bound for Glory is, again, October 20th, October. Because we're already out of September. But it's weird thinking we're already in October, in my opinion. But nonetheless, this is one of TNA's biggest shows of the year. This has to be a big hit for them. Going into television on Access TV, once again, I stress that. I cannot stress that enough. You're going into a major television network. It has to happen. It's going to be a great night of wrestling, a great weekend of wrestling. And we'll see what happens as the week goes on, because we have a full month to get to this card, and that tag title match, like I talked about earlier, could potentially be on this card.